Hi. I am glad to welcome you to my channel. Please subscribe and hit the bell and also give a like. These simple steps will help increase the number of excellent summaries for you. You are listening. I'm glad my mom died. By Jennette McCurdy. I'm in the ICU with my dying mother, and the thing that I'm sure will get her to wake up is the fact that I have achieved mom's current goal weight for me. 89 pounds. I am so sure this fact will work that I proudly cross my legs and wait for her to come to. I peel, don't rip, off the paper, because I know mom likes to save a wrapping paper scrap from every present. But if I rip instead of peel, the paper won't be as intact as she'd like it to be. Dustin says mom's a hoarder, but mom says she just likes to preserve the memories of things. I love Dustin because he seems a bit annoyed by me most of the time. I try to compliment him a lot on things he's good at, but he calls me a brownnoser. I love Scotty because he's nostalgic. A sentimentality for the past. That's definitely what he has, even though he's only 9. I swear she looks better without that stuff. You can see her skin. She doesn't think she is, which is probably why she spends an hour doing her hair and makeup every day. It's who she is underneath it that is beautiful. I've been waiting for this moment for 2 whole weeks, since I first decided what I was going to wish for. The birthday wish is the most power I have in my life right now. I don't take this opportunity for granted. I want to make it count. There's the flash of walking across what must have been a hospital lawn with my hand in Grandpa's. There's watching as 2 young and handsome missionaries put their hands on mom's bald head to give her a priesthood blessing. Even though I hardly remember that time in my life, it's not like I have to. Despite the facts of it are so sad, I can tell that the story itself gives mom a deep sense of pride. Like she was put on this earth to be a cancer survivor and live to tell the tale. Every time we re-watch the video, mom comments on how the heaviness was just too much for Marcus to handle. She calls him a stinker with such a venomous bite that it might as well be a cuss word. The fragility of mom's life is the center of mine. I wish that mom will stay alive another year. I think I can do something about that fragility with my birthday wish. I hate this hairstyle, the rows of tightly wound hair fastened into place with painful, scalp-gripping little clips. Mom loves this style and says it makes me look pretty, so butterfly clips it is. I want to give you the life I never had, Net. The life my parents wouldn't let me have, mom says as she clips my hair. Tall and ginger, very financially stable. Mom went on a few dates with a doctor. Quincy Jones once did a double take when he passed me on a street corner. I've never felt this way before. Sick to my stomach from nerves, Jennette says as she prepares for her stage debut. Go ahead, Jennette, the man with the black ponytail and goatee deciding her fate tells her. Loosen up a bit, just do it simply like you're talking to your friend. Goatee tells all of us that Academy kids would like to represent us for background work. Goatee calls out 9 names, including mine, and tells the other 5 kids they can go. Jealousy mixed with rejection and self-pity. Why am I not good enough to speak? Goatee comes out to give each of the parents feedback. He tells Jennette that she has potential to do principal work. It's important that Jennette wants to act, Goatee says. Oh, she wants this more than anything, mom says as she signs on the dotted line. Background Crafty is a tent at the edge of the soundstage with food everywhere. Cereal and candy and jugs of coffee and orange juice are served alongside trays of breakfast foods. There are 30 background kids working on the show, and they're all called to set at once. I was one of 29 kids who will be playing children stuck in a gas chamber and suffocating to death. The director asks us to give him our best scared to death faces. After I gave my face, he winked at me and told a cameraman to get a close-up of me. Since mom homeschools me, she pulled my schoolwork for the day and paper-clipped all the worksheets together into a little packet. After our half-hour or so schoolwork segments, we're pulled from the classroom by the PA to go do the scene again. The whole day, the same scene. I just knew the Lord would help me get better if I was a good and faithful servant, Mom told me when she was diagnosed with cancer. Even though both Grandma and Mom were baptized, they didn't go to church. I think they wanted the perk of going to heaven without doing the legwork. Church is a beautiful, peaceful, 3-hour weekly reprieve from the place I hate most, home. Home, like church, is in Garden Grove, California, referred to by its inhabitants as Garbage Grove. Dad makes cardboard cutouts for Hollywood Video and works in the kitchen design department at Home Depot. Mom went to beauty school but says having babies sidetracked her career. Our garage is filled floor to ceiling with stuff. Stacks of plastic bins are filled with old papers and receipts. It's nearly impossible to get through the garage if you enter by the back door. We have a rat and possum problem, so the only thing you'll see is dead rats and possums. Going to the garage has become a 2-person job. Whoever opens the heavy garage door has to hold it up with their entire body to avoid it slamming down on top of them. Our bedrooms are so filled with stuff that you can't even determine where the beds are, let alone sleep in them. The white thing is a poorly named thin, white, floral pattern square that folds out into 3 10-inch by 10-inch segments. This trifold square serves as our table. Dustin and Scotty walk like they're on a tightrope, because they've both overfilled their bowls. Hurry it up, slowpokes. I bark at my brothers while pressing my full body weight into the wet Christmas towel on the milk-soaked carpet. Shut up, poop smear, Scotty snaps back at me. I'm out of the bathroom now, she says as she heads to the kitchen. What is this? Mom asks in a tone that makes me know she knows exactly what it is she just stepped in. She's ripping off her tights and calling for Dad, saying we're gonna need to stop at Rite Aid. With Mom, it's effortless. Why does everything feel so stuck with him? Mark Eugene McCurdy, Mom says, her voice rising. I look over at Dustin and Scotty for help. They're playing GoldenEye 007 for Nintendo 64. Grandma and Grandpa are at work. I'm in this alone. Mommy, why don't we watch Jay Leno? I don't need help, you need help. Dad starts taking off his shoes, thinking dumbly that maybe it's over. Less than 10 seconds later, she comes back carrying a kitchen knife. Deb, please, you can't keep doing this, he says. Me and the other background actors are playing impoverished people in the Great Depression for some short film called Golden Dreams. The film shows various vignettes of the history of California and is supposedly going to play at the new Disneyland partner theme park, California Adventure. The worst part of all of this is the stuff on my teeth, she says. Where's the sad-looking kid, the one I pointed out earlier? Let's just use her, the director shouts to the assistant director. How did this happen? Well, the little girl we hired wouldn't take direction. Just kept smiling no matter how many times we told her to look sad. You might be a glorified extra for now, baby, Mom says to me as she brushes her teeth. But if we keep going, you'll be a bona fide principal performer soon enough. The next morning Academy Kids calls to say they got me a part as a core background performer for an upcoming pilot. She's the mother of several famous kids. Kirk Cameron from Growing Pains, Candace Cameron from Full House. And she managed them. So then she started managing kids who weren't her own. And now she's one of the biggest youth reps out there. Really cool lady. Mom calls Barbara immediately to set up an audition for me and my oldest brother Marcus. Jennette lacks charisma, Mom tells Marcus' agent, and if she hasn't booked anything in 6 months, you can drop her. She's trying to tempt him with her sing-songy voice, which is unusual for a beggar. I hate acting class because I find it even more uncomfortable than being stuck at home. Barbara Cameron insisted I sign up for the class if I were to be represented by her. Even though it's a chunk of time away from home, I don't look forward to this class the same way I like going to church. You have to always be on in class, says acting teacher Laura Lasky. The kids who are annoying, don't take direction, ask questions, won't get auditions. We're told this technique is important so that we don't overwork the material and sound rehearsed in auditions. Each week, in preparation for scene work, we're assigned a scene that we have to memorize and break down. Forcing emotions into a thing is uncomfortable in the first place, but then putting on those emotions for other people to see feels gross to me. I wish so much that I didn't have to do this part. Mom mouths my lines as I say them and over-animates her facial expression when she wants me to mimic it. Mom's been the only parent sitting in on the scene breakdown portion since the beginning of class. It's difficult to perform while navigating Mom's sideline coaching at the same time. You've got this, Net. You're better than all these other girls. I see one of my competitors look down, sad. Mom seems upset that I haven't chosen nutty coconut as my ice cream flavor. Angelina Jolie Williams' mother booked her first speaking role on Mad TV. Angelina's best friend from high school is having lunch with her after they went to beauty school together. Mom doesn't have many friends her own age, so meeting up with Karen is a big deal. Did I ever tell you about how she stole my baby's name? Mom asks as she spritzes herself with perfume. I had the name all picked out. I thought it was a good name. Not too common, but also not weird like some of these new kids' names. I'll do them, Mommy, I say carefully, not wanting to aggravate her any further. Oh no, not you, sweetie, Mom says, reaching out to stroke my hair with her dish-soapy hands. I don't want you to get prune fingers. That won't do you any good. I secretly like being away from Mom, too. She doesn't watch me dance the way she watches me act. Dad has taken me to dance class a few times before. I never know if she's gonna yell at someone or complain to the dance studio owner. I wish I felt connected to Dad the way I feel connected to Mom. Being around Mom can be tiring, sure, but at least I know what to do to make her happy. Around Dad, I never really know. It's less work, but it's also less rewarding. I like riding my bike, and maybe today I can make a good memory with Dad. We ride to the dance factory and do monkey bars at the local park. Dad takes me to a smoothie shop and makes us both smoothies. In the middle of the smoothie maker blending up various fruits, I remember we had acting class. Debbie wonders if her dad knows that I hate acting class. Maybe he purposely made us stop for smoothies because he knows this about me. Dad's clearly more focused on the amount of lemon in his smoothie than he is on my well-being. By the time we get home it's 11:05 and Mom's pacing the yard. Hollywood's like a bad boyfriend, they keep stringing you along without making any type of commitment. So far, I've experienced a bunch of little breaks that trickle in just as I'm almost positive I won't catch one again. Mom complained because I wasn't even paid a principal's salary for Shadow Fury. I played the female Dewey aka Daisy. They put hard wax behind my ears to make them poke out more because they said the trademark of Dewey is that he has big ears that poke out and that I have small ones. It was my first national commercial, which means residuals. Enough residuals to pay for the oak bunk bed I bought for myself. Jennette, I, the spirit of the Holy Ghost, command you to cross your name out on the sign-in sheet, go to the restroom, touch your underwear band 5 times in a row, twirl on one foot, unlock and relock the bathroom door 5 times, come back, and re-sign in, the Holy Ghost says. The Holy Ghost is a great guy up in heaven who helps out Heavenly Father and Jesus. He's kind of like them, but he's different, too, because he lives in each and every one of us. Every day we can talk to him whenever we want to, and he can guide us to do what is right. The Holy Ghost talked to me. Mom watches as I unlock and relock the bathroom door 5 times while she watches. Your eyelashes are invisible, okay? You think Dakota Fanning doesn't tint hers? Everything Mom says about my natural beauty is followed up by its downside. Little paper eye patches are tucked under my eyes, just on the lash line to the point where they could be poking my eyeballs. The knockoff Crest white strips are cupping my teeth, and even though they're only supposed to stay on for 15 minutes, Mom keeps them on for 45. Why didn't you tell me? This stuff could make you go blind. Mom squirts eye drops into my eye. A cocktail of tears and eye drops trickles down my cheeks as I try to sit up. Mom's obsession with my appearance began even before I started acting. I'm trying out for a hermaphrodite on Grey's Anatomy. I didn't know what that was until I asked Mom, and she said it's when a person is both a girl and a boy. Despite the outfit, I get a call back the same day. The casting director asks Greg to lend his flannel shirt to Jennette for her callback. The final callback goes well, but then Meredith calls to tell Mom that I didn't get the part. They said she's too pretty, Meredith says. And now I am. I don't know, I see her doing all her little rituals constantly. Makes me feel bad, Grandpa says. Mom, Jennette's perfect, all right? She does not need help. Is it possible that this voice in my head isn't the Holy Ghost, and instead it's OCD? Would Mom be able to handle that? Where did you learn to act like that? I don't know, I say, even though I do. I'm rolling around on the floor, bruising my sides as I thrash around, bumping into couch legs and edges of dressers. My audition for the little girl with bipolar disorder in an episode of Strong Medicine comes the next day. I scream and kick and roll around intensely. There's a part of me that almost feels good doing it, like this has been waiting to come out for a long time. Mom can set my body on edge or calm me down at the same time. Sometimes it's just nice to feel good at something, even if it's uncomfortable. We're so close to a big break, we just need a little extra support, Mom says. A demo reel is a thing actors use to show their on-camera work. Usually the goal is to show some variety and good performance moments. Imagine how impressed she'd have been if she'd seen your callback. Mom screams. I'm auditioning for a network crime show called Karen Cisco, for the role of an 11-year-old homeless child named Josie Boyle. Mom debated wiping dirt on my cheeks for the audition, but ultimately decided against it because that's too over the top. The bungalow waiting room is so crowded with girls auditioning that the door is pushed open. Casting directors rarely choose the actor for a role unless it's a very small one. Mom found out from Susan that Andrea Bowen's on Desperate Housewives. The role has been very tricky to cast and they want to make sure they cast the right girl. It's a demanding guest lead opposite Carla Gugino and Robert Forster. The director told him he thinks he'll make it in this business. Crying on cue is the skill you want in child acting. Everything else pales in comparison. Mom bought a pogo stick and had me practice an hour a day for 2 weeks. You're like a female Haley Joel Osment, Mom tells me regularly. I made up a story about our house burning down and my brothers dying in the fire, and the only thing that remained was their stapler. Dustin and Scotty draw a lot, and they staple their drawings into little packets to categorize them. As I was on the little acting class stage telling the story, my eyes welled with tears to the point that my vision was blurry. Imagine if the spinal tap went wrong, became Dustin dying of meningitis, then Marcus dying of appendicitis, then Scott dying of pneumonia, and then Grandpa dying of old age. My body convulsed with me. All I had to do was plop down in the casting office and think of Grandpa clutching his sock doll and bam, the tears spilled. Crying on cue was truly my special skill. People wanted to see me do it over and over, like I was contorting in aerial hoops. The audition scene is a scene where Emily gets called in for an interrogation. A part of me is resisting my mind forcing this emotional trauma on itself. Part of me doesn't realize that this is my special skill. The more I can cry on cue, the more jobs I can book. My heart isn't in it and I don't feel my words. Mom finds the fold in her magazine, but just before she goes to reopen it, she leans over once more. Mom's face contorts in a way that terrifies me. She's hysterical, like I was in the Hollywood homicide audition. Never mind, I say loudly so Mom can hear it through her sobs. Mom won't let me read the script because she says there's too much adult content. I'm not allowed to go outside alone. Mom says I might get kidnapped and abused and murdered like Samantha Runyon. Grandpa has been watering the lawn while I've been memorizing my lines. He gives me Mike Wazowski, the main monster character from Monsters, Inc., as a present. Fun isn't a thing I'm particularly familiar with. Life's a serious thing. There's a lot going on in this place. Being prepared and working hard and doing well are far more important than fun. I know she could use a pick-me-up right now. It's just that I hope you don't like writing more than acting, Mom says wistfully as she picks up my screenplay. I absolutely prefer writing to acting, I say. Writing is the opposite of performing to me. Through writing, I feel power for maybe the first time in my life. It's the story of a 10-year-old boy and his best friend as they try and pair their single parents together, Michaela Jenkins writes. They already did that in The Parent Trap, her mom says. If you mention my ductal carcinoma, you'll get the sympathy vote, she says to casting directors. I'm rocking my oversized cancer tee and planning what poem I'll write for Mom this weekend, says 14-year-old Dustin. Mom always says that we go to the Revlon run/walks to support women with breast cancer, which is so noble of her. Dad once said he thought Mom went more for the free cancer merch than the cause itself. I wish I could stop growing up. I feel guilty with every inch I grow. My mom weeps and holds me really tight and says she just wants me to stay small and young. I can see how much it pains her. I'll do anything to stop it from happening. No one else in the family seems to understand Mom's emotions. I've spent my whole life studying her so that I can always know. Mom is grateful happy when she feels seen, valued, and nurtured. If you really want to know how to stay small, there's this secret thing you can do. Ned is on a 1,000-calorie diet, but if I eat half my food, I'll only receive half the calories, which means that I will be shrinking twice as fast. Mom and I team up to count our calories every night and plan our meals for the next day. Each Sunday, she weighs me and measures my thighs with a measuring tape. I weigh myself 5 times a day. 5 is my lucky number, so this amount of daily weigh-ins seems appropriate. Author's favorite foods are sugar-free popsicles, applesauce, and unsweetened iced tea. She's down 3 sizes and is now wearing a size 7 slim. 61 pounds, the nurse says as she scribbles on her clipboard paper. My heart starts pounding so intensely, I'm sure everyone in the room can hear it. Time blurs while I walk through the waiting room door and into the hallway. We'll talk about it later, Mom says before I can speak. Sometimes when young girls have anorexia, they're very secretive about their food habits, Dr. Tran says. I suggest you keep a close eye on Jennette's eating behaviors, she adds. Mom already keeps an eye on my eating behaviors. She's as involved in them as I am, if not more so. Beehives is the church's program for girls 12 to 13 years old. Upon entering, you're assigned a role and the role I've just been assigned is assistant secretary. Inactive is all but a cuss word in the Mormon church. Inactive members are those who have fallen off or stopped attending church. In every Latter-day Saints ward, there are first-rate and second-rate Mormons. First-rate Mormons have perfect attendance in seminary and are trusted to bring the chicken pot pie to a potluck. Second-rate Mormons skimp on tithing and always show up 20 minutes late to service. We've also started skipping service some weeks around the release of episodes of shows that I've guest starred on, Lindsay writes. Lindsay's mom says she has to shower me because I wouldn't know how to shampoo and condition my own hair. Michaela said the reason she got assistant secretary is because they think we'll probably go inactive. Mom showers me with Scotty sometimes. She says it's because she's got too much to do. I get really embarrassed when she showers us together. We usually just look away from each other and Scott distracts himself by drawing Pokemon. Mom gives me a breast and front butt exam, which is what she calls my private parts. I try and focus on the relief I'll feel as soon as the exams are done and I know the shower's just about over. Mom won't let me turn on the faucet because she says it's tricky to get the right temperature. We're driving to the art supply warehouse to visit Dustin on his shift. I screen tested for iCarly, a new Nickelodeon show about teenagers who create a web show together. Next week I screen test for Californication, a Showtime show about a man who mistreats women. Whichever show tests you first gets first choice on whether to pick you or not. I'm not gonna drop the call after I've been waiting on hold for an hour, Mom says. Mom's voice over the phone speaker, she booked iCarly. The second I lean forward to grab Mom's hand, the belt makes the clicking sound of it locking. I've booked my first series regular role. Mom's dream has come true. I unbuckle my seatbelt as quickly as I can and jump into her arms. Everything's going to be different now. But just for a second, I'm elated. Because then it hits me. iCarly co-star Jodie Whittaker received a $100 gift card to ArcLight, the fanciest movie theater I've ever seen. Miranda plays Carly Shay, a sweet, feminine teenage girl who, with her best friends Sam and Freddie, starts a web series. I'm touched. I'm really surprised that another child actor would be so nice to me, she says. iCarly's Miranda got me a very expensive gift card to a very fancy movie theater. A TY stuffed animal and a fuzzy journal is not a cool gift. Miranda seemed to have an independence I didn't have, and it fascinated me. Mom warned me not to get too close to Miranda because she doesn't believe in God. Even though Mom said not to get close to Miranda, I really wanted to. I wanted some of her coolness to rub off on me. And she seemed nice, too, which is hard to be if you're cool. I had my fingers crossed that somehow, despite our mutual shyness, a friendship between us would develop. You look great, the wardrobe assistant who's always sewing Yell says from across the room without looking up from her sewing machine. I'll definitely push for the one piece, but thank you for humoring me and trying on the bikini, the head of wardrobe says. Our wardrobe designer said that the creator explicitly asked for bikinis, and so she had to have me try on one or two of them. Mom says she's heard rumblings from crew members that he's got a hair-trigger temper and to be sure not to get on his bad side. I'm terrified of being looked at like a sexual being. It's disgusting. I'm embarrassed by it, Jennette McCurdy says of her body's reaction to filming her first kiss. Minaj, my body is rejecting my mind. My body is saying no, I don't want this. It's an out-of-body experience, doing the scene leading up to the kiss, says Jennette. You're just thinking about every single little thing that's happening, and you can't wait for it to be over with. The creator looks her right in the eye, but doesn't say anything for 4 or 5 seconds. Make sure you smile a lot. With teeth, Mom tells me as she changes lanes on the 405 to get to lunch with the creator. Mom thinks this could be an I'm thinking of giving you a spin-off lunch date. She does well when she has something in her life to look forward to. He'll heap the compliments on while undercutting other talent that he works with. I appreciate the creator's approval, but wonder if he's trying to pit me and his other talent against one another. The creator can tear you down and humiliate you. iCarly will get her own show. The creator wants to give her her own spin-off, but it won't happen for a while because iCarly is doing so well. Mom says she has the name picked out, Puckett. Dan asks with a smirk. I've been on iCarly for almost 3 years now, and in some ways things are easier. My friendship with Miranda has been a source of camaraderie and emotional support. Mom's not as stressed about the two things she's typically most stressed about, bills and my body. She's had to stop the Christmas fantasy parade midway through because so many people stopped talking to her, and now she can't go places without being recognized. Jackson, I'm too young to be bitter as a result of a life that people supposedly envy. Child stardom is a trap. A dead end. And I can see that even if Mommy can't. She wanted this and I wanted her to be happy. But now that she's happy and I'm not. Her happiness came at the cost of mine. I feel robbed and exploited. I've worked too hard lately. I'm too tired, Mom says as she burrows her face deeper into the pillow. We haven't been to church in 6 months, our longest stretch ever. I find it strange that we've stopped going to church since my career has taken off. I used to think going inactive was a terrible thing, a sin to be ashamed of. But now, in this moment, I'm starting to accept for the first time that our church days may very well be behind us. Who needs God when you've got clear mammograms and a series regular role on Nickelodeon? I was confused. Becoming a woman was the last thing I wanted, she writes. I envied several things in Teresa's life. But I did not envy her becoming a woman. The door bursts open before she finishes describing her period to her mother. "Oh, sweetie," she says with the gravity of someone consoling a friend who's just lost their beloved pet. Mom wraps a long strip of toilet paper around her hand and tells me to stuff it in my underwear. "I've been slacking and the slacking needs to stop," I tell her. Not That Far Away is a song written from my point of view about being on the road without her. After hearing that her sister Hilary Duff sings, Mom had me start posting covers on YouTube. I suspect this tour is going to be my first time away from Mom. And not because she's told me outright, but because we share an email account. I saw an outgoing message from her to Marcus, where she told him the very thing I'd been dreading for my entire life. "I saw your email to Marcus, where you said your cancer came back," Mom tells me. I feel the color drain from my face right after I ask it. My heart feels heavy as I watch her little body shake and heave with sadness. "I don't want to miss your tour," she sobs, sounding like she really means it. iCarly is touring with a mission to get her new single, Generation Love, on the radio. Reps at Capitol have arranged for her to perform for a bunch of radio stations across the country. iCarly will be performing in each radio station's local mall to thousands of screaming tweens. The first is that a part of her is enjoying herself for the first time since her mother's cancer diagnosis. I'm horrified by this reality, but simultaneously drawn to what's on my plate with an attraction that can only be described as lust, says Roxanne Jones. Each bite I take feels rebellious. Guilt drives me to eat more. The old combination of power and solace is replaced by a new combination of shame and chaos. "I really like you. Have a good night," he says, or I think he says. My vagina feels funny, but I figure I'll worry about that later. On the last rehearsal day, he invited me to come into his house and listen to a Queen album with him. I was so excited. "I really like you," he said, brushing his hair behind his ear. He drove me home to the Hampton Inn and dropped me off. The next day I left for the radio tour. On one hand, I liked that he was saying these things to me. But I felt physically unable to say them back. I've been unsure about Lucas for the past month. The few times that he joined us for festival dates were okay, but a bit awkward since the rest of the band was around too. Now I'm back in Nashville for a week to record some new songs. And I'm sitting on the couch in room 223, processing the fact that I just had my first kiss with him. "I can't believe she didn't warn me of this in any of our 5 daily calls," he says about his mother's weight loss. I feel sick to my stomach while I wait for her to tell me how ugly I am. "We've got to get you on a diet," Mom says as we pile into her new car. "I don't know if drinking is what gives a person edge," she says. "I like being his favorite for now. I feel like I'm doing something right," the creator says. He reaches out and places his hand on my knee. "You're about to star in your own TV show, for crying out loud. You know how many kids would kill for that?" "I can't believe my baby girl is moving away," Mom says, in a way that's different from how Grandma would say it. Unlike her bill extension calls with Sprint PCS, this is not for show. I appreciate the ways in which Mom is different from her mother. iCarly's new manager arranged for Nickelodeon to pay for my lodging and a production assistant to take me to and from work. I don't drive since Mom says it's probably too difficult for me and that my energy in cars could better be spent elsewhere, like learning lines or planning tweets. I can't handle how desperate she is. The sicker she gets, the cuter she becomes in her intonation. The more innocent she becomes, the more she pleads with me. It's like she's begging me to not slip away, and I want to scream, "You're the one slipping away." This is not my first ever solo apartment. This is Mom moving in. Now he's touching her in a new way that feels more than just friendly. The sensation is exhilarating and overwhelming and scary at the same time. In this moment, I know that one way or another, we're going to be together. "I'll miss you too, Mommy," I lie. "You're lying to me, you liar," Mom says, spitting as her face contorts. Just as I'm about to ask her what's going on, she picks up the TV remote and chucks it at my head. I'm gonna figure out what you're up to, you liar. Tonight was supposed to be our first night together as an official couple. I wanted it to be romantic and magical and momentous. Instead, Joe's sad and drunk and I'm trying hard to resist the disillusionment. Even though my family stopped going to church, there are still a few rules of the religion that for whatever reason I can't bring myself to break. One of them is no sex before marriage. We've made out and rubbed on each other, but we've never had sex. I've seen a certain shortness to Joe at times, but this feels different. He's so much older than me and cooler than me, and I know we must have something special. And then I start doing it. Licking it and sucking it and hoping that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Each guest and cast member stayed at the Four Seasons Resort Maui at Wailea for 4 nights and 5 days. Mom still doesn't know about her relationship with boyfriend Joe. I feel the wedge between Mom and I growing by the day. With every lie I tell, I feel myself slipping further away from her. Each day Colton and I three-way call Mom to tell her about our snorkeling adventures. She laughs along as Colton tells her about jeep drives and white sand beach walks. I saw you in Hawaii with him. I saw you rubbing his disgusting hairy stomach. I knew you were lying about Colton. Add that to the list of things you are. Liar, conniving, evil. You look pudgier, too. It's clear you're eating your guilt. I raised you better than this. I look awful. My body and face repulse me. I do look pudgy. I no longer wear one-pieces, but I still wear board shorts to hide my ass, which is curvy and womanly and disgusts me for being. I think boobs are hideous. I hate them. I wish I was flat-chested and curveless, she writes. I read another email from Mom titled, Letter to Your Fans. This one says that she's posted to an online fan club in an attempt to get my fans to flee from me. I draft a response asking if we can just sit down and talk this out face to face. I want to be close to you again. I miss you. There seems to be more hate than love for each other right now. Maybe we're just letting this wedge between us grow, because deep down we both know that soon enough this wedge will be out of our control. Mom asked me to sing Wind Beneath My Wings at her funeral. It must have been cold there in my shadow. Involuntarily, my singing voice starts pouring out of my mouth. My body is programmed to Mom on demand. A nearby employee watches me out of the corner of her eye as she mops. I feel furious with her, then immediately guilty for feeling furious. As much as I thought I hated it, I want to go back to pretending. Plastered on the side of Nickelodeon Studios is a bright purple and yellow billboard for iCarly. There was no way I was waking up every morning to face myself. There she is. Mom says as she snaps a photo of the giant iCarly poster. I'm horrified. Her convulsing looks like the rocking of somebody in a mental hospital. Mom's got stage 4 cancer, she's already plenty pitted. She doesn't need to throw Wendy's on top of it. Marcus, Dustin, Scotty, and their friends visit their mom in the ICU. She had a seizure as a result of her brain tumor, which is apparently pretty regular occurrence. I offer to go pick up some Burger King for all of us because I'm desperate for a distraction. Miranda tries to force food down her throat, but nothing comes out. iCarly is ending, and I don't know what will become of my friendship with Miranda. Our friendship is pure. Like sisters, but without the passive aggression and weird tensions. We hold each other and cry. I yearn to know the people I love deeply and intimately, without context, without boxes. I'm just worried about being attached while my mom's, I can't say it out loud. Doctors have been saying that Mom's health is rapidly declining for a while. Our age gap no longer feels cool to me and instead feels a little embarrassing. iCarly's series wrap-up included a sleepover at the St. Regis Laguna Beach. Miranda and I sat shotgun in her Porsche, where we spend 50% of our time these days. We watched Dance Moms until we fell asleep and discussed how miserable we were. Something's not right, Net, Mom says. They're taking me back for my surgery. The breast implant from her mastectomy recently started leaking, so the doctor needs to go in there, clean up the leakage, and repair the implant. There's a trembling to her voice that I've never heard before. Mom has less than 48 hours to live. Her sons crack up around her, harder than they would have if she wasn't dying. Kamoura dei, she says again. Her husband, Dr. Weissman, says that this does not mean she will have some sort of miraculous recovery. She shits in a bag and breathes from a machine. This isn't gonna turn around. I try looking at Mom while I'm here at the hospital with her. She used to have curves, all 4'11" of her. Now her stomach is distended, her boobs have shriveled, her legs are twigs. This is one of the only phrases she has left in her. I've never had alcohol before, but if there's anyone I'd try drinking with, it's Colton. He's warm and energetic and has a way of making everyone around him feel accepted. Plus he's gay, so I don't have to worry about any sexual tension. When I'm drunk, all of my worries disappear. This must be what it feels like to be hungover. Up until this point, every time I've gotten drunk, I've been able to wake up the next morning unscathed. But today's different, for whatever reason. I got a beautiful 3-story hillside house that was turnkey so I could move in immediately and not worry about having to do any remodeling. Within weeks of moving in, I learned the entire infrastructure needed to be dug out and replaced. This thing looked good on the surface, but underneath it was falling apart. I've experienced this moment many times before. If anything, I want it. It's easier to be angry than to feel the pain underneath it. The guys start banging and hammering in the bathroom to work on the shower while I frantically stuff socks, underwear, pajamas, jeans, and shirts into my suitcase. I'm trying to process this intense reality, but I'm really struggling to because hammer, she writes. Mom's been in hospice care for the past 3 weeks and her breath is shallower than I've ever heard it. I don't have space in my heart to love anyone right now while Mom's dying, she says. If I love someone, I start to disappear. It's so much easier to just do googly eyes and fond memories and inside jokes for a few months, run the second things start to get real, then repeat the cycle with someone new. I feel like the world is divided into 2 types of people who know loss and people who don't. I've been living off whiskey, Coke Zeros, and 2 individual bags of barbecue baked lays. I'm determined to keep this up. I'm sure everyone has mistaken my silence for grief. But this isn't grief. This is my secret food obsession. I order another bottle of sake, another side of steamed rice, some egg rolls, and a bowl of ice cream for dessert. I drink the full bottle and eat every bite of the food. The singer-songwriter struggled with whether or not she should sing Sarah Bareilles' Wind Beneath My Wings at her mother's funeral. I know in my heart that I'm incapable of singing this song, but I feel like I have to. I can't break the last promise I made to my dying mother, Dustin says. Wind Beneath My Wings sheet music is printed out just in case. Pallbearers love the spotlight. Singer Ariana Grande is a burgeoning pop star who misses work regularly to go sing at award shows, record new songs, and do press for her upcoming album while I stay back and angrily hold down the fort. I resent being a good sport. I'm pissed about it. And I'm jealous of her. For a few reasons. Maybe my life would be entirely different right now. I fantasize about it being entirely different. But it's not different. This is what it is. Ariana misses work in pursuit of her music career while I act with a box. I frequently make the mistake of comparing my career to Ariana's. I can't help it. I'm constantly in the same environment as her, and she doesn't exactly try to hide her successes. This was supposed to be just Puckett, the harrowing tale of a brassy juvenile delinquent turned school counselor. Now it's some half-baked two-hander. Ariana Grande spent the previous evening playing charades at Tom Hanks' house, and I didn't like her. Every time something exciting happens to her, I feel like she robbed me of having that experience myself. And every time someone calls me a good sport, all I feel is how much I don't want to be one. Liam and I haven't had sex yet, but it's starting to feel like an appropriate time. Liam seems like a solid person to lose my virginity to. I don't want to be some weak, smitten woman who falls for a man just because he was inside her. Liam dropped Colton off on the way home, so it's just the two of us. Liam throws me onto the bed and takes off my copper dress. I'm dizzy. The room is spinning. I do the opposite of Emmy and ignore Liam for the rest of the party. Every man feels like a giant to me, that's the thing about being a small woman. I try and break free, but I can't. I feel suffocated. Like I'm in a straitjacket. Liam is spooning me. He looks me deep in the eyes and smiles at me. Says that last night was amazing. Izzy has been struggling with an eating disorder for the past few weeks. There's a very small window of good eating that she falls into, even though her habits are so far from good. Whitaker, directing one of the creators' shows is not exactly the best way to flex your creative muscles. I believed that these people would do what they said they would. Give me what they'd promised. Now that I've shown up to work every day, been a professional, and swallowed my anger, and carried a show for almost 40 episodes, they're taking away the very reason why I was doing all of those things in the first place. This place is toxic and bad for my already poor mental health. I just want you to know that it's not your fault, the producer says. I don't even understand how something like this is possible. The show's producers remove her from the slate and say they'd quit the show if she directed. I'm filled with so much shame and anxiety every time after I eat. I literally don't know what to do to make myself feel better except throw up, says Ashley. Ashley used to think of bulimia as the best of both worlds, eat what you want, throw it all up, stay thin. Now she's pining for anorexia. Anorexia is regal, in control, all-powerful. Bulimia is out of control, chaotic, pathetic. I have friends with anorexia, and I can tell they pity me. It's like a secret code you can't help but pick up on. When I was growing up, Grandma's favorite hobbies were gossiping on the phone and getting perms and complaining. She's always teary-eyed, always wailing, always making her problems everybody else's. And I don't think she likes me much either, but she would never admit that because she's too busy crying. Every time she calls wailing, I assume it's because Grandpa died. I tell her sternly that I'll call her back when I get home, then hang up my phone. By now it's not only me that's stressed, but the hemp-clad yogi in front of me. Bulimia helps me. My grandma is blocked and my body is empty, and these are things that I need, writes writer Jen Richards. Richards on her struggle with her grandmother, she always hits me in a deep way, she knows it hurts, she shoves the knife in deeper and twists it around. I'm starting to expect I'll have a bulimia-induced heart attack. My thoughts have gotten dark and dramatic like this in recent weeks, and it no longer feels like a shift. The disappointments in my life are piling up, and with each added disappointment, so grows my misery. I can't recall the last time I smiled unless it was for a scene. The creator has gotten in trouble from the network for accusations of his emotional abuse. It's to the point where he's no longer allowed to be on set with any actors, which makes communication in between takes complicated. I've done the stunt a few times. Between the stunt and the long hours and the bulimia, I'm spent. All I want to do is get home to some whiskey, she says. Apparently, this is what you do when you get successful in showbiz. They're giving you $300,000, and the only thing they want you to do is never talk publicly about your experience at Nickelodeon. Specifically related to the creator. This way of operating not only disagrees with me, but seems genuinely impossible for me to adapt to. I hate being known as Sam. I've tried to find some peace with it, but I haven't. Every single day, many times a day, people shout at me things like, Sam, iCarly girl, and then ask for a picture. Sometimes they'll call after me and say that I'm rude. I've put on 10 pounds since those first few months of bulimia, when I was mom's goal weight for me. Millions of people dream of being famous, and here I am with fame and hating it. I'm allowed to hate someone else's dream, even if it's my reality. Bethany is bulimia's biggest fan, and she brought a cake with candles. I've been offered the lead role in a new Netflix series and, considering the network upgrade, I'll take it. For the first time in years, I have hope. I spent my entire life trying to understand and know my mother at the expense of ever really knowing myself. Without Mom around, I don't know who I am or what I want. I'm starring in a real show. No more kids' shows. But real deals, Netflix starsins, aren't messes. Real deals have their shit together, says writer and actress Erin Richards. I may be a part of Netflix's first ever dud. The budget is lower than expected for a sprawling post-apocalyptic drama about a small town where a virus breaks out and everyone over 21 starts dying. There hasn't been a single Netflix rep present for any of the welcome to the show cast and crew pre-parties. I'm so ashamed of myself. Of my career. I'm aware there are worse things than starring on television shows you're not proud of, yet the awareness doesn't change a thing, he says. I need my coping mechanism. I need the depleted feeling I get after a good purge, she says. After 2.5 painstakingly long weeks of coincidental run-ins, Steven invites me on a date. Steven has an edge to him that's somehow balanced out perfectly by how unassuming he is. I've never seen someone so edgy seem so humble, and vice versa. I've never felt this way about a guy before. Even my feelings for Joe seem so immature, so childish compared to whatever this is. I feel completely understood and seen by Steven, and he seems to feel the same way. What should feel impossibly lame feels impossibly magical, and it's all because of Steven. I've pretended to be other people my whole life, my whole childhood and adolescence and young adulthood. As much as I resent them, in a strange way they define me. They are my identity. Leaving him was true agony. It's possible that the past few months have just been a fantasy, a delusion. I know what this call means. Steven is coming out to visit me. This call means our relationship wasn't a fling. I cannot wait. He only packed a carry-on since he's only staying for a couple days, so he's in his Uber quickly and we text back and forth his whole ride over. There's vomit residue on the toilet seat. I wouldn't really consider that a problem, it's more of just a thing I do, says Jenny. Bulimia can kill you, says Steven, so can cigarettes. Yeah, but I'm gonna stop. So am I. Laura pulls me into a hug. I'm not a hugger, but there's something about Laura's warmth and immediate trustworthiness that causes me to surrender to her embrace. Everything about Laura so far would typically put me on the defensive, if Laura were anyone else. But Laura is Laura. I love Steven and want things to work out between us, so I agreed to come here, says Jennette. Laura takes a long sip of tea and asks, so Jennette, do you want to change? It's almost like Laura is the casting director and I'm the child actor trying to get a callback. Even though I've been seeing Laura for a month, I feel worse off than I did when I initially sat in her tufted chair. The first 3 weeks with Laura have shown me just how dark my situation is. I'm binging and purging 5 to 10 times a day and drinking at least 8 or 9 shots of hard liquor a night. For the next few months, Laura will be my +1 to all these events so she can monitor my behavior and serve as emotional/mental support. We've already identified my main binge, purge, and alcohol triggers, and red carpet events came in near the top of the list in all caps. I'm having a panic attack. And I know exactly why I'm having one, he says. I haven't thrown up all day. I couldn't focus on anything except for the shame I felt about how much food I had consumed. All I wanted was a toilet and all I got was 45 minutes in LA traffic. I'm dying to cram some meaty, cheesy sliders into my mouth and then throw them up in the bathroom, says one writer. The act of purging gives her a rush of adrenaline and it's so physically exhausting that she hardly has space for anxiety after she's finished. My cheeseburger slider does too. I feel it like a rock in my stomach. I hate that she's disrupting my ability to purge. Laura assures me it's normal to have these types of reactions after not purging. But it doesn't feel normal. My reaction feels humiliating but impossible to curtail. I have felt controlled by this eating disorder. It's been 3 years that I've been binging and purging every day, many times a day. To not throw up for 24 hours was really hard, and I'm not convinced I'll be able to do it again. I want to understand more about little Jennette, therapist Laura says tenderly. I understand you felt a lot of pressure at an early age, but I want to get into some specifics. Always with the childhood, these therapists. Some shit happened in your childhood, it messed you up, that's why you are the way you are. But not me. I didn't have an alcoholic dad or brothers who tortured me. Mom was wonderful. She was honestly, like, the perfect mom. What was so perfect? I throw on my best fake smile. Just everything, to be honest. She took care of me and my brothers, I'm sure that was really hard for her. Laura asks, did your mom have any friends her own age as well, or was her main friendship the one she had with you? I squirm in my seat. Her tone this entire time has been a gently curious one, even though I've been treating it like a personal attack. When I was 11 I was concerned about getting boobs, so Mom taught me about calorie restriction to help me out. Watching my calories meant I could delay adulthood. Plus for acting. I always played characters younger than me, so if I wanted to keep booking, looking younger was important. I can't take this anymore. My whole life, my entire existence has been oriented to the narrative that Mom wants what's best for me. Confronting that false foundation would mean destroying it and rebuilding a new foundation from the ground up. I have no idea how to go about life without doing it in the shadow of my mother. I make myself throw up repeatedly. I need this, Jenny says as she throws up blood-stained vomit streaked with blood in front of her boyfriend, Stephen. Jenny bo Benny banana fana fo fenny fi fymo mane, Jenny. Stephen flings me around while he sings while he swings me around. I'm gonna tell him. I'm gonna do it. Stephen tells me he wants to take me to church. I haven't been in a church since Mom's funeral, and I didn't plan on going back to one anytime soon, ever. I saw God's Not Dead on Netflix, and it really resonated with me, he says. I can't believe the words just spilled out of my mouth like that, Goldie Stephen says. This is the 4th church service Stephen and I have gone to in a week. Humoring what I imagine will be a very short-lived phase for Stephen feels like a low price to pay. I'm taking a vow of celibacy. I hope you're okay with that. Our sex is the best sex I've had. I wouldn't want to give that up even if my life was soaring in all the other areas. My life is miserable right now. Sex is a reprieve. It's where I lose myself. So was there ever a good phase of your relationship with Mom, or was it always how I remember it? I remember loving the way that Dad's flannels smelled, pine wood with a dab of fresh paint. I remember him teaching me how to tie my baby pink Winnie the Pooh shoes bunny ears style. I remember my dad trying to read Stan the Hot Dog Man to me and Scotty every night for what must have been a 3 or 4 week stretch. I remember him forgetting dance recitals and falling asleep during the family watch parties for my TV performances. Dad's girlfriend is Karen, Mom's high school best friend who stole her baby name. I just thought you should know, Dad says, eyes looking down at his hands while he rubs them together. Tears fall down my cheeks even though I'm completely numb. But he is your father, she says, her voice cracking with emotional strain. This man's your father. He told me, and I told him he had to tell you, Karen speaks into my hair. There's something about inherently dramatic moments that makes eye contact during those moments feel even more weighty and dramatic. I'm supposed to leave for a press junket in Australia in an hour. I've been relying heavily on purging and alcohol to get me through the week. Every other question I ask is brushed off with I don't know or some variation of it. How could the person who I lived and breathed for have kept such a fundamental piece of my identity hidden from me? The lack of answers, of any semblance of closure, is infuriating. I need someone I can vent to, a sounding board, a voice of reason. Stephen thinks he's Jesus our Lord and Savior Christ? The second I realize he's not, my second instinct hits me. I want to cry. It's clear Stephen is unwell, but I have no one to tell that information to. I don't have any of the phone numbers for his family members or friends. I try and discreetly ask for the phone number of one of his friends. Stephen bursts into tears, begging me to not tell anyone. I'm caught in the undertow of bulimia. I'm gonna have to do an entire press junket while missing a lower left molar, and my boyfriend's schizophrenic. It could not be going any worse, he writes. Ooh, I love this song. You mind if I turn it up? If you want to get better, you're gonna need to face all of it. That starts with facing your emotional experience around food, eating, your body, and yes, getting weighed. I can't believe I ever thought I was Jesus, Stephen says with a laugh, as he eats a fry. We're living together again, and he seems to be doing well. He's actively seeing a therapist and psychiatrist. His vow of celibacy is over and we're having great sex. I'm terrified that this will make me heavy. I don't want to feel bogged down. I'm tired of feeling so much heaviness. Mom always said sodium made my face puffy. Mom would be mad if she saw me eating this. My mom would be disappointed. I start to cry. I was told to track my binges and purges for 2 weeks, as well as every single thing I ate and the time that I ate it. Tracking my purges made sense to me, that was a thing Laura had me do, so I expected it, but tracking my food intake confused me. We're gonna normalize your eating. We want you to neutralize food. It's just a thing you eat, neither good nor bad. Regardless of whether it's pineapple or pancakes, says Jeff. I see both of those as bad, because they both have a lot of sugar. For so long, your eating has been so fucked up, says trainer Jeff. I'll warn you, normalizing your eating patterns and mentally neutralizing food is not gonna be easy. It's gonna be hard emotional work. But I'll help you through it. At the end of every session, Jeff hands Jennette a packet of worksheets and articles. Accepting slips and moving on from them is one of the most important parts of recovery. When we get caught in a shame spiral, we tend to make more of the same kinds of mistakes that caused us shame in the first place. Maybe this acceptance of slips is the missing piece. I'm making strides in my bulimia recovery. I'm no longer abusing my body to nearly the extent that I used to, says Ashley. The further into my recovery I get, the further into his drug of choice Stephen gets. And the further away from each other we grow. Nothing has worked. He won't read the articles, he won't go to support groups or try new therapists. He bought more weed. I'm powerless over him, but I love him and I want us to be together. I don't think I can sell my house, Liz says. It feels lonely. And kinda scary. And I don't like the neighborhood and I've had a couple stalkers who show up sometimes and leave creepy notes, and one time one of them left a bouquet of roses dripping with blood. I don't want zebra print on my pillows or my blankets or my curtains. These things aren't fun, they're functional. Give me some simple, solid-colored, coordinating furniture and let's call it a day. 3 days later, cheetah print curtains show up at my doorstep with a receipt, $14,742. I just don't understand why me selling this house is such a big deal to you, Grandma says. It's all right, hun. It's gonna be all right, Grandpa tells her. I'm way more nervous than I've ever been to go on a first date with my biological father. I've considered the possibility that he has a family, that his kids might be at the show, and that they might not know I don't want to be the one to introduce this news into their lives. So I've decided that I'll approach him at the end of the concert. We just like jazz, Colton says finally, after he realizes there's nothing more than a blank stare coming from my end. Oh, that's good. We need more young people like you. Ooh, here they are. Pearls claps ecstatically, and the three of us turn to see the band walking out onto the stage. I think we have something in common is what comes out of my mouth when I tell Colton that he's my biological father. He says things ended poorly with Mom and that there was a big custody battle when we were little. He didn't want to contact us because he wasn't sure if we knew. I'm having a lot of feelings and I can identify what they are. I ask him if he knew Mom died. He says yes, he saw it on E! News. Biodad gives me his phone number and tells me to text him. We hug and say goodbye. I no longer want that number to be the entirety of who I am, or rather, who I was. I am ready to experience life beyond the scale, writes writer and journalist Kelly Wallace. I am trying to solve my problems. And you're doing a great job, says therapist Jeff. But I have a feeling you might be able to make more progress if you take all that energy you're spending trying to manage Steven's life. Instead, put it toward managing your own. The shift happened quickly. I decided that if we got picked up, I'd do it. But if we didn't, I'd take a break from acting. An 18-year career ended in a 2-minute phone call. It's taken me over a year of mulling and back and forth with Jeff to get here. I'm a few years into my eating disorder recovery, but the road is still bumpy. The diagnostic criteria for bulimia stipulate that there must be a binging and purging sequence at least once a week for 3 months. So even though I exceed the weekly criteria sometimes, the purging is inconsistent enough that I'm no longer considered a bulimic. I want to feel like I've outgrown eating disorders and they're a thing of my past, but so far, that time hasn't come. Any mention of a meal, any reminder of one, still causes a rush of anxiety throughout my entire body. I'm not just disappointing myself with my slips, but her too. I just want to get the eating over with so I can brace myself for the onslaught of emotions and will my way through their intensity until they pass and I haven't purged, says singer Miranda Cosgrove. It's so annoying, eating disorder brain, she says. I started this exercise after a trip to Disneyland when I beelined for the Adventureland restroom to throw up my clam chowder. I shove my fingers down my throat and purge repeatedly until nothing comes up anymore. I scrub the puke toilet paper dingleberries off my arm with more thin toilet paper. Recovery so far is, in some ways, as difficult as the bulimic/alcohol-ridden years, but difficult in a different way. I'm facing my issues for the first time instead of burying them with eating disorders and substances. It's difficult, but it's the kind of difficult I have pride in. I know both the executive and Miranda mean well in saying these things. I don't think a reboot could realistically lead to other opportunities. It further entrenches the performer in the role that they initially got known for at least a decade prior. This business doesn't view a role in a reboot as a career revival. This is my first time visiting Mom's grave since her birthday, last July. My visits have become less frequent through the years, even though I promised her that I would visit her grave every day. The words on her headstone make me angry. Why do we romanticize the dead? Why can't we be honest about them? When I was 6 years old, she pushed me into a career I didn't want. These exams made my body stiff with discomfort. I felt violated, yet I had no voice, no ability to express that. I was conditioned to believe any boundary I wanted was a betrayal of her. I miss when my mom was happy. It didn't happen as often as I would have liked, but when she was happy it was infectious. Mom made it very clear she had no interest in changing. If she were still alive, she'd still be trying her best to manipulate me into being who she wants me to be.